Help! They've kidnapped me. Lady Die, by Slobodan Radojev. Mitrić, Muslim man. Chapter 10. The Crown Prince of Great Britain, dressed in a green silk gown, checks with a compass the easterly direction and spreads a small Persian rug, a gift from the King of the Emirates, on the floor of his office. He kneels down, lowers his head until it touches the carpet and mutters, Allah Akbar, without knocking. His young pregnant wife walks into the chancellery. Charles, she says, surprised. He looks up and laughs. Allah Akbar, Dajana, Charles. Yes, have you gone mad? What do you mean? What is this? He stirs on his seat and spreads his hands wide apart. I'm meditating, like a Muslim. What's wrong with that? You're a Christian. He points to the carpet and gives her a sign to sit down beside him. Dajana hesitates, but finally relents and kneels down opposite her husband. It's true. I am a Christian. Well, as future king of all peoples and nationalities in the United Kingdom, I should know everything about their faith. Ha ha ha, Charles. What's so funny? This here. My husband looks like a green lizard. He frowns. I do not. Why are you dressed in their clothes? These are my clothes. I know that. I mean, why are you dressed in Islamic costume? He takes her hand. Dear woman, when I play polio, I do so in the uniform of a polo player. When I go with you to a ball, I do so in a formal suit, and when I study Islam, quote, you do it in the uniform of Muhammad. He strokes her swollen belly with both hands. Ho, how quick-witted you are. She blushes. What if someone else sees you in this clown's costume? Clown's costume? I mean, in such a strange costume for a Christian. They are all clowns' costumes. The only costume that suits us is the one we forgot to bring with us when we were thrown out of paradise. You will see when you give birth to our successor that he or she will come in a heavenly costume. Dajana smiles. You don't want to run naked through the palace, do you? He takes her other hand. In paradise, everyone, even the creator, goes naked. How do you know? That's what I think. Dajana turns serious. What if the Jews see you in the costume? So what? They will say you're a Muslim. Nonsense. When I visit the synagogue, the Jews immediately give me the little rooftop. Rooftop. Jewish kippah. Oh yes. He takes her hand again. Jews wear on top of their head the little roof that they cut off below their head. She edges back. Again she pulls her hand away from his. Anti-Semite. Unconcerned by her comment, he continues. You know what Otto von Bismarck said about your Jews, my Jews? The Crown Prince of Great Britain grins. You're even more beautiful when you get angry. For God's sake, woman. I'm just teasing you a bit. Her face assumes the color of a ripe tomato. Who is that Otto of yours? My Otto. She points at him and winks. 1-1. Now we're even. Ha ha ha. You're right. Otto von Bismarck was a German politician. Well, Otto von Bismarck said, I'm afraid that if the Jewish bankers with their cunning and dirty tricks would take over complete control of the enormous wealth of America, they will use the power to systematically destroy today's civilization. The Jews will not hesitate to drive the whole Christian world into war and chaos and then claim the destroyed planet Earth as the inheritance of Israel. Anti-Semite. Nonsense. I'm only telling you what's recorded in history. Dajana gets up, goes to the table and pours some water from a crystal bowl into a crystal glass. Do you want some? No. Thanks. She drinks from the glass, returns and kneels down on the Persian carpet opposite her husband. Do you have any more anti-Semitic fabrications, Muhammad? She asks, pestering him. Charles smiles. Yes, I have, though they are not fabrications, but the living truth of Nazi or Islamic fanatics, she adds. Not at all. Dajana taps on her belly. Let's hear something. Ha ha ha. That is a good one. Yes. Remember that our successor in a paradisal costume hears it all. Charles makes a serious face. You've probably heard of Napoleon Bonaparte. I don't know for sure. You're probably thinking of the dwarf from Corsica, who played general, head of state and then eventually emperor, whom we defeated at Waterloo. The prince grins. My God. Aren't the young women smart today? She blushes again. I also learned something in school. I don't think they taught you this. She stirs in her seat and pats her big belly again. We're listening. Jews have been guilty of usury since the time of Moses and suppress other peoples. Meanwhile, Christians are very rarely usurers, and when it was the case, they fell into disgrace. We would have to expel the Jews from the market, because they abuse it. The evil of the Jew derives not from individuals, but from the fundamental nature of this people. Charles, why are you mad at me? I'm quoting Bonaparte, the dwarf. Unconcerned by her remark, he continues. You've probably heard of Fyodor Dostoevsky. Who hasn't? The Russian novelist. He taps his temple with his forefinger. Clever woman. Exactly. Dostoevsky in his novel My Paradox says, now since the Jews have become landowners, everywhere people are writing about it and getting very concerned. They exploit Russia's land, for the Jew. After having invested a certain capital in the purchase of his property, immediately exhausts all modes of production from the purchased land in order to get back his capital, together with interest, as soon as possible. And that's why you've decided to become a green lizard, to exile the Jews from our British Isles, just as your namesake from the 16th century did. No. I only study what history says about the Jews in order to govern our whole kingdom effectively when the time comes. That's all. Aren't you afraid that our American allies will call you an anti-Semite? Not at all. Do you mean to view historical facts as they are seen by famous Americans? Something like that. For example, have you heard of Mark Twain? You mean Clement? No. I mean the writer Mark Twain. Mark Twain was the pseudonym of Clement. Oh. Are you sure? 100%. You know, I've worked in a library. His face turns the color of a ripe watermelon cut in half. I see. Thank you. I didn't know that. She laughs. You're welcome, dear, she says teasingly. I will gladly help your Cambridge-educated Royal Highness. But tell us, what does your Mark Twain spew out against the Jews? He coughs into his fist. About the Jews, Mark Twain said. I am convinced that the reasons for the persecution of the Jews is not primarily due to religious prejudices. No, the Jew is only interested in amassing money. That is the whole meaning and purpose of his life. He was already doing it in Rome and is still doing it today. His success has led mankind to become his enemy. Diana inclines her head on his shoulder. That is why, despite his brilliant books, I don't like Clemens. But he is a writer. I am afraid of what American politicians will say when they hear you babble like this. He embraces her and kisses her on her forehead. Ah, my dear, beautiful wife. What do I care what the American imperialists will think, and if they but dare say a word I will quote Henry Ford, who cursed the Jews even before Hitler did, and in a much sharper manner. She looks at him. The American industrialist Henry Ford, anti-Semitic? Yes, I didn't know that. Oh, my dear lady. There are many things you do not know. She strokes her belly with both hands. Tell us then. On September 20th in the year 1923, a Cleveland newspaper quoted Henry Ford as follows. Take the 50 wealthiest Jewish financiers, all men interested in starting wars for the sake of their own profiteering. Contain them. And in that way you will eventually stop all these wars. Charles, what is it, my dear? Can't you see that the Americans realized what danger threatens humanity if they are not tamed? Charles, but that's not everything. Do you know what Richard Wagner said about the Jews? They'd Kraut, composer and advisor of Hitler, friend of Hitler, same thing. Whatever. Okay. Hitler's secret advisor Wagner says about Jews in music, from the moment in the development of our society that money openly assumed the mark of nobility, the Jews, whose only skill was to accumulate money without real work, i.e. usury, could no longer be denied the diplomas for the new society, for which nothing more was needed than gold, but they had already brought their bags full of it with them. Oh, that German loudmouth! He was probably jealous of his Jewish colleagues and therefore coughed this up. He's the only musician who said anything like that. No, no, my dear beautiful wife. You've probably heard of Franz Liszt, Hungarian composer. Franz Liszt was not only a composer, but a pianist and conductor as well. Whatever suits him, she says teasingly. So that Hungarian of yours was also an anti-Semite. I don't think Liszt was anti-Semitic, but Franz Liszt in the magazine The Israelites said, the Jew continues to monopolize money, and depending on whether he opens or closes his wallet, the gall in the neck of the state grows weaker or stronger. The real Pandora's box has been opened. The small industry and trade of the past have been replaced by the huge business of banks, a monstrous money market, of which, because of the speed that everything turns in the minds of people, the Jew has become autocratic king and absolute master. Anti-Jewish propaganda. No. Statements issued by the great minds of our planet, which we must study. And if they are true, then we take them as examples, and if they are false we reject them. And that's why you dressed up as a green lizard. No, I told you I study Islam, so that I know what I'm talking about when we visit our Arab friends again in the future. You've probably noticed how hungrily and full of desire they looked at you. Charles, blushing, engulfs her. He continues, you know what Arthur Schopenhauer said. She stands up, stretches and sits down again. Who is that? A German philosopher. Of course, again a real anti-Semitic. He looks serious. Arthur Schopenhauer says in his book Periga and Paralipomena, what a colourful cast adorns the arena of world fame: generals, ministers, charlatans, con artists, actors, singers, millionaires and Jews. It is a temple where the few arts that are practiced in this present world are more appreciated than the superiority of the intellect. Jews are the grand masters of mendacity. Ah, that Kraut was probably rather ugly and a Jewish woman had rejected him. So he spouted that nonsense. I'm just telling you what great minds here on earth have said about the Jews. She stands up. Monkeys, all of them. Are you finished now? He takes her hand. I have something special for you for dessert. Sit down for a moment. Diana does so and touches her belly. Be careful. You're a very bad teacher for your new heir, who is about to step into this fake world and is now getting lessons from his father in anti-Semitism. The Crown Prince of Great Britain embraces her. How do you know it will be a lad? There is constant kicking, she jokes. If it was a lady, should stay calm. Ha ha ha. He kisses her on the mouth and after a short pause says, have you ever heard of Friedrich Nietzsche? A German monkey. A German philosopher. In the Antichrist, Nietzsche says, she finishes his sentence, through their ability to turn things around. The Jews are the most disastrous people in the history of mankind. With their activities they have so blinded mankind that even today the Christians are accused of anti-Semitism, not realizing that it is simply the logical consequence of Judaism. The Crown Prince stares at her. So you know that. She gets up, walks to the door and opens it. Yes, she says. From the manuscript of your memoirs, Conversations with My Teacher Kurt Hahn. Have you forgotten that everything you just said you preached to me at the beginning of our love and that you gave me that unpublished book to read? He picks up a small green silk cushion, raises it in his hand and mutters, naughty woman. Green lizard. Prince Charles throws the cushion at Princess Diana, but she quickly closes the door. The cushion misses its aim.